Nobody noticed the old, tired-looking woman sitting quietly in the last pew of Grace Hill Cathedral. Tucked behind pillars and shadows, her scarf was thick, her face was hidden, and her clothes were the kind village women wear when they come to town for burials. But nobody knew that under that wrapper and dark glasses sat the woman they were about to bury. Her name was Ivy Uduagan, and she wasn't dead. She had faked it. From the ashes of a burnt-out Prado SUV on the Benin-Lagos Expressway, a charred body had been found. No fingerprints, just jewelry and dental remains that matched her records. The authorities ruled it a fatal crash. Everyone accepted it. Everyone except Ivy, because Ivy had planted that body. 2 months before, she had noticed things changing. Her husband Osagi, once distant but polite, had grown cold and calculating. Her childhood friend Blessing, who always dropped by to check on her, now lingered too long in her house, especially when Ivy wasn't home. Her own parents, once proud and principled, had become unusually demanding, pressing her for money and favors like hawkers chasing buses. It gnawed at her until a dangerous thought formed. If I disappeared today, what would they really do? And now here she was, at her own funeral. The church was packed. Her supposed coffin, polished mahogany, stood near the altar. Her photo, the one from her last birthday party at the Echo Hotel, beamed beside a huge wreath. Everyone wore black. People cried, people prayed, but none of it moved Ivy, until her eyes fell on one person, her younger sister, Ife. Ife looked wrecked. Her eyes were red, her body weak. She walked to the coffin, trembling, and whispered, "Sister, you said we'd always be together. You promised you'd watch me graduate. You said you'd be there at my wedding." Then Aoife dropped to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Ivy's fingers clenched the edge of her wrapper. That she thought was real. That pain. Everyone else? Pretenders, parasites. Because just 2 seats away from the coffin, Ivy saw what made her fake her death in the first place. Osagi, dressed in black with designer shades, holding hands with Blessing. They whispered. They smiled. Blessing even dabbed Osagi's forehead with a handkerchief, like a widow in training. Barely 48 hours since they buried me, and she's already by his side. Ivy's chest burned. The funeral ended. People filed out. Some cried real tears. Most didn't. Outside near the church gate, Ivy sat quietly on a stone bench, pretending to be an exhausted guest. The wrapper was tight around her, her lips sealed, but her ears were wide open. Osagi, Blessing, and her parents, Chief and Madam Uduagan, lingered behind, their voices low, but not low enough. "Now that it's over," Madam Uduagan said sharply, "let's get to business." Ivy had no child. According to tradition, her estate returns to us. Osagi blinked. "With due respect, madam, I was her husband. Legally married. I have rights." Chief Uduagan scoffed. "Which rights? You came into her life with nothing. It was Ivy who clothed you, fed you, built your silly business. You were a project, not a partner." "You people are shameless," Osagi snapped. "You didn't care when she was alive. Now you want to grab everything like vultures." Blessing stepped forward. "Actually, Ivy told me she was including me in her will. I managed her boutique chain. She said I'd inherit it." The chief laughed bitterly. "So this is what you two planned? You think we'll hand everything to you? Boutique, land, car, money?" Ivy couldn't take it anymore. Her knuckles turned white under her wrapper. But before she could move, another voice cut through the noise, soft but firm. "Shame on all of you." They turned. It was Aoife. She had heard everything. Her eyes were still swollen from tears, but her voice held steel. "You're fighting over her property like she was nothing but a wallet. Nobody's talking about her dreams, her legacy, her soul." "Shut up!" Madame Uduagan barked. "This is adult talk." Aoife ignored her. "Ivy was the only one who truly loved me. She gave me school fees, protected me, carried our burdens. Now you're treating her death like a business opportunity?" Blessing rolled her eyes. "You're too young to understand." "I understand more than all of you put together," Aoife snapped. "And if Ivy could see what you've become, she'd die all over again." Ivy wanted to run to her, hug her, tell her it was all fake. But not yet, not until the masks fell completely. She had come too far. That night, Osagi and Blessing sat in the master bedroom of Ivy's house. sipping wine. They toasted each other like lovers on a honeymoon. "She's gone," Osagi said. "No drama, no police, no noise, just ashes." "Exactly what we wanted," Blessing purred. "Her parents will fight, but they don't have lawyers. I do, and once the paperwork clears, everything, the lands in Wari, the shops in Lekki, the accounts in Zenith and GTB, all of it becomes mine." "What about Aoife?" Blessing asked. "That girl?" Osagi chuckled. "Let her cry. She's just a student. I'll give her small change and she'll disappear." Blessing smiled and lay back. "And when it's all settled?" Osagi leaned in. "We leave Nigeria, Dubai, then maybe Canada, rich, free, untouchable." He raised his glass. But downstairs, hidden in the BQ, a hidden phone recorded everything. Ivy had installed it days before her death. And now every whisper, every plan, every confession was saved. Meanwhile, in a modest office in Asaba, a lawyer named Barrister Agosa, Itibor sat staring at a file labeled Estate of Ivy Udwagan. His father, late Barrister Osifo Itibor, had handled the case before his sudden death, a car accident. But Agosa had reopened the investigation quietly, because his father hadn't died by accident. The brakes were cut. And Agosa had proof, and he had a mission. He was going to finish what his father started, and unmask the devil, even if the devil wore Ivy's wedding ring. Agosa placed the file on the table and unlocked. The drawer his father had bolted shut before his death. Inside were voice recordings, scanned will drafts, and notes written in a neat, shaky hand. At the top of the pile was a yellow, sticky note. "Agosa, if anything happens to me, follow this case. Protect Ivy, trust no one." He sat back, jaw tightening. His father never called clients by first name unless there was trust or trouble. It was no accident. His father was murdered, and the answers lay inside this case. Meanwhile, in a quiet, gated estate on the outskirts of Uromi, Ivy sat at a modest table scrolling through her tablet. Her face was bare now, no more disguise. She looked younger than before, calm but calculated. On the screen were voice recordings from her bedroom, the ones capturing Osagi and Blessing's secret conversations. She pressed play. Osagi's voice crackled through. "By the time I'm done with her parents, they'll regret ever trying to fight me. I've already spoken to someone. One warning, and if they don't back down, they disappear." Ivy's lips tightened. "So that's it. Eliminate obstacles. Erase the past." She pressed another file. "Blessing, you planned this well. Cars, lands, business accounts, all falling into your hands. I don't know whether to fear you or love you. Osagi, fear is respect, Blessing. And Ivy? She was always too trusting. That was her mistake." "No, Osagi," Ivy thought. "My mistake was loving you." Her phone buzzed. It was Agosa. She answered quietly. "Yes? Madam Ivy, this is Barrister Agosa Itibor, your late lawyer's son. We need to meet urgently." There was a pause. "How did you get my number?" she asked. "My father gave it to me before he died. He told me everything." Another pause. "When?" "Tonight. My office. No phones, no recordings. Just truth." Ivy hesitated, then nodded. "Send me the location." That night, Ivy wore a plain hoodie and left through the back gate, using a private car driven by her cousin, who believed she was recovering from surgery. No one suspected she was the ghost haunting the entire city. At Agosa's office, the lights were dim. He stood as she entered. Young, sharp-featured, dressed in a simple shirt and trousers, but his eyes burned with purpose. "You really are alive," he whispered. "I never died," Ivy replied. "I needed to disappear, to expose the people close to me." He motioned for her to sit. "My father believed you. That's why he hid your final will draft. He suspected something was coming. He told me your husband and friend were too close for comfort." Ivy leaned forward. "They poisoned everything. My peace, my plans, even my family." "I know," Agosa replied. "I've seen the recordings. I traced the brake sabotage. It wasn't a random mechanic. The man was paid, cash, disappeared after the crash." Ivy's voice dropped. "Osagi killed your father." Agosa nodded. "And now we'll bury him legally, but we do it your way. Not fast, not loud, but final." For the first time since she faked her death, Ivy smiled. The plan began. 2 days later, Ife received a sealed letter. It was from Barrister E. Itibor. She opened it and gasped. Inside was a short note. Ife, your sister is alive. Do not tell anyone. She needs you. Come to the address below at 8 p.m. Come alone. She stared at the paper. Her heart stopped. Could it be? Could Ivy be alive? She grabbed her handbag and ran. When Eve arrived at the quiet bungalow, the door opened before she knocked. There stood her sister, alive, glowing, and stronger than ever. For a moment they said nothing. Then they both broke down. They hugged for what felt like forever. Eve cried uncontrollably. You came back, she whispered. I never left, Ivy replied. They sat inside and talked for hours. Efe poured out everything. How their parents betrayed her. How Osagi mocked her. How Blessing spat lies. Ivy listened. Every word another nail in the coffin she'd soon build, not for herself, but for the people who buried her too early. The next morning, Barrister Agosa sent a legal notice to all stakeholders. Official will reading of the late Mrs. Ivy Uduagan, rescheduled Saturday. Non, Uduagan Estate, Girai, Benin City. The city buzzed. The lawyer was new. The case was heated. Rumors flew. Osagi received the notice with a smirk. He leaned back, holding a glass of champagne. Finally, he said. Time to claim what's mine. Blessing hugged him from behind. When it's over, let's disappear. Somewhere far. Osagi kissed her. After Saturday, Nigeria becomes history. But that same Saturday morning, just before dawn, Osagi received a text. Be on time today. The dead are never late. He stared at the screen. No number, no name. His hands shook. At exactly 12 noon, the Uduagan mansion was packed. Chairs lined the massive living room. The ACs hummed. A few journalists lurked outside. Osagi wore a navy suit. Blessing wore a silk black gown. They entered confidently. Chief and Madame Uduagan arrived separately. They barely spoke to each other. Their shame was heavy. Ife walked in last, calm, dignified. Then Barrister Agosa rose. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Before I read this will, I must clarify something. Everyone leaned forward. The deceased, Mrs. Ivy Uduagan, is not deceased. Gasps exploded. Before anyone could react, the front doors opened, and in she walked. Alive, elegant, unapologetic. Evie. Osagi stumbled backwards. Blessing dropped her purse. Madame Uduagan screamed. Chief Uduagan crossed himself in fear. Efe smiled through tears. Ivy walked to the center. Good afternoon. I'm sorry to interrupt your funeral plans, but as you can see, I'm not dead, just deeply disappointed. She turned to Osagi. You wore black like a widower, but you were celebrating. She turned to Blessing. You cried at my coffin, then kissed my husband, then to her parents. You chased my wealth, not my memory. Nobody could speak. She looked at the lawyer. Read the real will. Agosa opened a sealed brown envelope. The following are the official contents of the will of Ivy Uduagan. Osagi interrupted. This is madness! You faked your death. That's fraud. Ivy turned. And you? Sleeping with my friend? Killing my lawyer? That's love? The lawyer continued. To my sister Aoife, the full ownership of the boutique chain, the Lekki condo, and N15 million education fund. Aoife gasped. To my parents, monthly stipends of N100,000 for upkeep, on condition they publicly apologized to their daughter for betrayal and greed. The parents said nothing. To Blessing, nothing. No item, no apology. Only a lifetime ban from my home, my business, and my legacy. Blessing opened her mouth, then shut it. And to Osagi, annulment papers, criminal charges filed, and a court injunction blocking access to all estate assets. Additionally, copies of recordings have been sent to EFCC, SARS, and NPFCID. Osagi turned pale. What are you saying? I'm your husband! Not anymore, Ivy replied. You tried to bury me. Now I'll bury you, legally. The police entered. Osagi was arrested on sight. Conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud. Blessing vanished before they reached her. But the city would never forget her name. As for Ivy, she didn't celebrate. She walked upstairs, quietly closed her door and wept. Not because she lost, but because she had to die to see who truly loved her. And now she had returned, not as the old Ivy, but as a woman reborn from betrayal. And this time nobody would bury her alive. The day after the will reading, headlines flooded blogs and news channels. Wife returns from the dead to expose husband's murder plot. Prominent Benin businessman arrested after wife fakes death. Betrayed heiress outsmarts greedy family in unbelievable plot twist. The story went viral. Osagi was taken into custody at Ogba Correctional Facility. He spent the first 72 hours in solitary confinement, where silence screamed louder than sirens. On the fourth night, after hours of pacing, he snapped. He banged his fists on the metal door, yelling, "I'm innocent! I was set up. I want my lawyer." But no lawyer came. His calls to blessing were never answered. His relatives refused to post bail. The account he thought was secure, frozen. The house he planned to retire in, locked by court order. He was nothing now. He had gambled on Ivy's death and lost. Meanwhile, Blessing had gone into hiding. The moment the police entered the will reading, she slipped out through the kitchen exit and vanished into the crowd of journalists. Her designer heels snapped on the gravel as she dashed through the side gate. That night, she changed her SIM card, dyed her hair, and took a night bus to Port Harcourt. She stayed in a cheap motel in Rumola for 3 weeks, living off what was left of her savings. She barely ate. Each night, the nightmares came. Ivy's face at the door, police sirens outside, Osagi screaming for her help. She tried reaching out to an old sugar daddy. He blocked her. She tried contacting an ex-client from her boutique days. They laughed. One evening, after pawning her last gold bangle for transport money, Blessing walked into a small pharmacy, bought a pregnancy test, and went back to her room. It was positive. She stared at the 2 lines for over an hour, whispering, "No, no, no," until she fell asleep on the floor. Now truly alone, she did the only thing she had left. She wrote a letter to Ivy. "I was wrong. I betrayed you. I lost everything. I have nothing left but shame, and a child who might never know peace. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed you to know I regret it all. Blessing." She didn't mail it. She left it on the floor, walked out of the motel at dawn, and was never seen again. Back in Benin, life was slowly returning to normal, at least on the surface. Chief and Madame Udwagan came to Ivy's mansion one afternoon, standing awkwardly by the fountain. Her mother broke down before even knocking. "I failed you," she cried. "I let the world teach you pain when I was supposed to shield you." Ivy said nothing for a while. Then she turned to her father. "And you?" Chief Udwagan, once proud and loud, stood with his shoulders slumped. "I was blinded by fear and shame. I was afraid to face the truth, that I became a man who chased his daughter's name instead of her heart." Ivy watched them, then stepped aside. "You can come in, but this time you come in as parents, not as heirs." Inside, they knelt and apologized to Eve too. Together, the family ate in silence, small, slow sips of pepper soup. For the first time in years, there were no screams, no threats, just shared guilt and quiet healing. That night, Ivy stood on her balcony, watching the moon. Eve joined her, carrying 2 cups of zobo. They sipped in silence. "Do you ever wish you hadn't come back?" Ife asked. "No," Ivy replied. "I just wish I didn't have to die to be seen." Weeks turned into months. Osagi's trial began and ended quickly. The recordings, phone logs, and hidden camera footage were overwhelming. His sentence, life imprisonment, no parole. In his final court appearance, he tried to apologize, but Ivy didn't attend. She was done giving him her presence. Barrister Egosa became a fixture in Ivy's world. He didn't try too hard. He didn't flatter. He just showed up. When her father had a health scare, Egosa helped move him to a better hospital. When Ife applied to Unilag, he paid the application fee quietly. One evening, after a long day reviewing business audits, Ivy looked up from her laptop and said, "You don't ask for anything. Why?" Egosa smiled. "Because loyalty shouldn't come with a receipt." That night, she kissed him for the first time. 6 months later, they were married in a private court ceremony with only Efe and 2 close friends present. No crowd, no fanfare. Just quiet vows and steady eyes. Egosa didn't inherit Ivy's wealth, he inherited her trust. Years passed. Ife graduated with honors in economics. She opened a financial literacy center for girls and named it Ivy's Shield. Chief Udogan passed away peacefully in his sleep, reconciled and forgiven. Madame Udwagan now teaches Sunday school in Wari. Her once loud voice now used for hymns. As for Ivy, she no longer ran from the past. She turned her story into a memoir titled Buried by Betrayal. It sold out in Nigeria and abroad, not because of pity, but because of power. The power of truth, of survival, of rising after everyone counted you out. One final twist came 4 years later. Ife knocked on Ivy's door one rainy evening, holding a sealed envelope.
"What's that?"
Ivy asked, drying her hands. "Letter from Blessing." Ivy's eyes narrowed. "She sent it to my old email. Said she wanted you to have it if you ever felt ready." For a long time, Ivy said nothing. Then she opened it. "I had a daughter. Her name is Zara. She's beautiful. She looks like me, but carries your fire. I've been working at a canteen in Cross River. Nothing fancy, but I pay my rent. My past haunts me, but it also feeds me. I hope someday my child will meet the woman I failed. So she knows strength. I won't come back. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. I didn't disappear into nothing. I became someone who remembers. Their day Blessing." Ivy's hand shook slightly. Then she smiled, not out of pity, but peace. She walked outside, let the rain hit her face and whispered, "I remember too." Trust is a fragile gift. Once broken, it may never return whole. The people closest to you can sometimes be the ones holding the sharpest knives. Ivy's journey reminds us that betrayal isn't just an act of disloyalty. It's a mirror that reveals who people truly are when they think you're no longer watching. Greed will make people gamble everything, even their humanity, for things that perish. But truth, no matter how buried, always finds its way back to the surface. And when it does, it shakes everything. Love is not proven by words at your funeral, but by loyalty while you live. In a world that celebrates power, may we never forget the strength it takes to walk away with dignity, to choose peace over revenge, and to start over with nothing but self-worth. And above all, never let anyone write your ending while you're still breathing. Love this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. Drop a heart in the comments if this touched you. And tell me, what kind of story should I tell next? Your idea could be my next upload.